The courtroom felt cold and lifeless, the kind of place where hope went to disappear. The wooden benches were scratched from decades of stress and anger, and the air smelled faintly of old paper and floor cleaner. Mark Wilson sat comfortably at the front, his leg crossed, his arm resting casually on the table. He wore an expensive navy suit and a satisfied smile, the kind that came from believing you had already won. Beside him sat his lawyer, a polished man with a briefcase full of confidence and paperwork. Mark leaned back slightly, looking across the room at his wife, Emily, who sat alone at the opposite table. No lawyer, no files, just her hands folded tightly together, knuckles pale, her eyes fixed on the judge's bench. Mark couldn't help himself. He chuckled, leaning toward his lawyer and speaking just loud enough to be heard. "Looks like she finally realized she can't fight me." His lawyer smirked but stayed silent. Mark glanced again at Emily and shook his head. No lawyer, no money, no chance. Emily heard him, every word. Her chest tightened, but she didn't react. She had spent years learning how to stay quiet while Mark spoke loudly. Silence had been her survival. She remembered the night he froze her bank account without warning, the morning her credit card stopped working, and the text message that followed. Good luck hiring a lawyer now. He had wanted her scared. He had wanted her broken. The bailiff announced the judge's arrival and everyone stood. The judge took his seat and scanned the room with tired eyes. "Mrs. Wilson," he said, looking directly at Emily, "I see you are unrepresented. Are you planning to proceed without counsel?" Emily's voice shook slightly, but she spoke clearly. "No, Your Honor. My lawyer is coming." Mark laughed openly this time. "Your Honor, we've already wasted enough time. She's stalling." The judge frowned. "Mr. Wilson, control yourself." Mark raised his hands in fake apology. "I'm just saying the truth. She doesn't understand the law. She never handled money, never made decisions. I tried to help her, but she refused a generous offer." Emily clenched her jaw. Generous meant $50,000 after 10 years of marriage, while Mark kept everything else. The judge sighed and looked at the clock. "Mrs. Wilson, if your attorney does not arrive shortly, we will proceed." Mark leaned back again, confident. He whispered, "You should have stayed quiet at home." The sound of the courtroom doors suddenly echoed through the room as they swung open hard enough to make everyone jump. The noise cut through Mark's smug confidence like a blade. All heads turned. A woman stood in the doorway. She didn't rush. She didn't look lost. She walked in slowly, with calm steps that demanded attention. Her white suit was sharp and perfectly tailored. Her silver hair was neatly styled, and her eyes were focused, cold, and alert. She carried herself like someone who had never asked for permission in her life. She walked down the aisle, heels clicking against the floor, each step echoing through the silent courtroom. People whispered. Mark frowned, confused, irritated. The woman stopped beside Emily and placed a heavy briefcase on the table. "I apologize for the delay," she said calmly. "Traffic was terrible, and uncovering hidden assets takes time." Mark's smile vanished. The judge leaned forward. "Counsel, state your name." The woman met his gaze.
Margaret Hale.
"Senior attorney, entering my appearance on behalf of the defendant." She paused, then added, "And I am her mother." The room went silent. Mark stared at Emily, his face pale. "Your mother is dead." Emily finally looked at him. Her voice was steady. "I said she was gone from my life. I didn't say she was dead." Margaret opened her briefcase and removed several folders. "Your Honor, my daughter signed the prenuptial agreement under threats. We have messages proving coercion. We also have evidence of multiple undeclared accounts and false financial disclosures." Mark stood up, panicked. "This is ridiculous. Sit down," the judge ordered sharply. Margaret continued without emotion. "Mr. Wilson failed to disclose offshore accounts totaling over $12 million. He also committed perjury this morning." Mark's lawyer's face drained of color. He flipped through the documents placed in front of him, his hands shaking. "I request a recess," the lawyer muttered. "Denied." the judge said. Proceed. Margaret turned to Mark. You believed my daughter was weak because she was kind. You believed silence meant ignorance. That mistake will cost you everything. She called Mark to the stand. Under questioning, Mark contradicted himself repeatedly. He admitted to moving money, hiding assets, and controlling all finances. When pressed, his anger spilled out. It's my money, he shouted. She didn't earn it. The judge stared at him in disbelief. Did you just admit to intentionally hiding assets from your spouse? Mark realized too late what he had done. Margaret ended her questioning and called another witness. A young woman entered, trembling. She testified that she was Mark's girlfriend and that he had bragged about destroying Emily in court, leaving her with nothing. Emily cried quietly as the truth finally came into the open. The judge stood. This court finds Mr. Wilson in contempt. All assets are frozen. Exclusive use of marital property is awarded to Mrs. Wilson. This matter is referred for criminal prosecution. Mark collapsed into his chair. Outside the courthouse, Emily stood beside her mother, overwhelmed. I thought I was alone, she whispered. Margaret took her hand. You never were. Months later, Mark sat in a prison cell, stripped of everything he thought defined him. Emily stood in an art gallery, surrounded by her paintings, free at last. Silence had never meant weakness. It had simply been the calm before justice spoke. The courtroom felt heavy long before the judge arrived. It was the kind of room where time moved slowly, where every sound echoed just a little too loudly. The wooden benches were filled with strangers who had their own problems. But for Emily Wilson, none of that mattered. All she could feel was the tightness in her chest and the quiet fear pressing against her ribs. She sat at the defense table alone, her hands folded together in her lap, fingers intertwined so tightly they hurt. She kept her eyes forward, refusing to look at the man who had once promised to love her forever. Mark Wilson, her husband of 10 years, sat across the aisle like a king on his throne. He looked relaxed, confident, almost bored. His expensive suit fit him perfectly, and his watch caught the light every time he moved his wrist. He leaned back in his chair, whispering to his lawyer, laughing softly like this was all just a game. To him, this wasn't the end of a marriage. It was a victory lap. Mark glanced at Emily again and shook his head. He couldn't hide his satisfaction. She looked smaller today, like she had shrunk under the weight of everything he had taken from her. No lawyer sat beside her. No stack of documents. No protection. Just her and the table between them. She really came alone, Mark whispered to his lawyer, his voice dripping with mockery. I told you she'd fold. His lawyer didn't laugh, but he didn't stop him either. He had seen this before. Powerful men often mistook control for intelligence and cruelty for strength. Emily heard Mark's words, but she didn't react. She had learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. For years, she had swallowed her pain, ignored the insults, and convinced herself that peace came from staying quiet. When Mark took control of their finances, she told herself it was practical. When he questioned every purchase, she told herself it was responsibility. When he froze her accounts without warning, she finally understood what control really looked like. The bailiff's voice broke through the tension. All rise. The judge entered and took his seat, scanning the room with a tired but practiced eye. He had seen too many divorces like this one side confident, the other already beaten down. Be seated, he said. The judge flipped through the case file and then looked directly at Emily. Mrs. Wilson, I see that you are not accompanied by legal counsel. Are you representing yourself today? Emily took a slow breath. Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out. No, Your Honor. My lawyer is on the way. Mark laughed openly now, unable to stop himself. Your Honor, we've waited long enough. She's clearly unprepared. The judge frowned sharply. Mr. Wilson, you will keep your comments to yourself. Mark raised his hands in mock surrender. Of course, I just want to be fair. My wife doesn't really understand legal matters. She's emotional. I've tried to protect her. Emily clenched her jaw. Protect her. That was the word he always used. The judge glanced at the clock. Mrs. Wilson, the court has limited patience. If your attorney does not arrive shortly, we will proceed. Mark leaned toward Emily and whispered, "This is where you lose." Before the judge could lift his gavel, the sound of the courtroom doors slamming open filled the room. The noise was sharp, sudden, and impossible to ignore. Every person turned to look. A woman stood in the doorway. She didn't look rushed or nervous. She looked controlled, powerful. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her with calm precision. Her white suit was flawless, and her posture was straight. Her silver hair framed her face, and her eyes scanned the room like she already owned it. She walked forward, heels clicking against the floor, each step slow and deliberate. The courtroom fell into complete silence. Mark frowned, irritation turning into confusion. "Who is that?" he muttered. The woman stopped beside Emily, set her briefcase on the table, and opened it with ease. "I apologize for the delay," she said clearly. "It took longer than expected to review the financial crimes." Mark's smile disappeared completely. The judge leaned forward. "Counsel, state your name for the record." The woman met his gaze without hesitation.
Margaret Hale.
Senior attorney, entering my appearance on behalf of the defendant. She paused, then turned slightly toward Mark. "And I am her mother." A ripple of shock moved through the courtroom. Mark stared at Emily, his face draining of color. "Your mother is dead." Emily finally looked at him, her eyes steady. "I said she was gone from my life, not gone from the world." Margaret didn't waste time. She pulled folders from her briefcase and handed them to the bailiff. "Your Honor," she said calmly, "the prenuptial agreement was signed under coercion. We have written threats and witness statements to support this. We also have evidence of hidden offshore accounts and false disclosures submitted to this court." Mark shot to his feet. "This is insane. Sit down." The judge ordered. Mark's lawyer was pale now, flipping through documents with shaking hands. Margaret continued, her voice even and firm. "Mr. Wilson deliberately hid millions in marital assets, committed perjury this morning, and used financial abuse to isolate my daughter." The judge's expression darkened. Mark's confidence cracked. "This is a setup," he shouted. Margaret turned to him slowly. "No, Mr. Wilson, this is accountability." She called Mark to the stand. Under questioning, Mark grew defensive. His words contradicted earlier statements. His temper flared. "It's my money," he yelled. "She didn't earn it." The judge leaned forward. "Did you intentionally hide assets from your spouse?" Mark hesitated. The room held its breath. "Yes," he snapped. "I did." The judge closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with clear disgust. Margaret called her final witness. A young woman entered, nervous and pale. She admitted she was Mark's girlfriend and testified that he had bragged about destroying Emily in court, leaving her with nothing and enjoying her fear. Emily cried silently, years of pain finally breaking free. The judge stood. "This court finds Mr. Wilson in contempt. All assets are frozen. Exclusive use of marital property is awarded to Mrs. Wilson. Criminal investigation is ordered." Mark collapsed into his chair. Outside the courthouse, the sun felt too bright after the darkness inside. Emily stood beside her mother, shaking. "I thought I was alone," Emily whispered. Margaret squeezed her hand. "You never were." Months later, Mark sat in a prison cell, stripped of money, reputation, and power. Emily stood in an art gallery, surrounded by her paintings, finally breathing freely. Silence had never meant weakness. It had only been the moment before justice arrived.